Hello everyone, my name is Jenny. Welcome back to my channel. A Costa Rican who moved to Stockholm, Sweden almost a year ago, and you can see the story of that in my channel as well. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you stick around and enjoy the content. A couple things: I'm recording from a new setting. This is one of the balconies in my building because I feel that I have more natural light here than in my apartment, and also because I'm rarely ever alone because of the pandemic. Me and my boyfriend both work from home, so I decided to come to the balcony so that I would have like more privacy to talk, you could say. I wanted to touch on a story about my life, and I hope that some people can relate to this, and I hope if this video finds you by chance and you're going through something similar, I want you to know that my heart is with you. It's really intense and no one really wants that. But anyways, I wanted to talk about this. So let me just start by saying sorry about the noise. And also I have my notes here on my laptop, so you will see me looking through the side, so that's why. So the story about my marriage is that I met my ex-husband when I was 22. And back then, as you can tell, I mean, a 23-year-old is not really a grown-up yet, although at that age you do consider yourself a grown-up, and sometimes you do have pretty hefty responsibilities already, but you're still like way behind in terms of maturity and, you know, knowing yourself and reaching your goals and things like that. So no offense to anyone who's 22, okay, just hear me out. So in my case, I was pretty immature. I came from a very complex family with a lot of issues. There were lots of things revolving domestic violence, alcohol, drugs, etc., which is a whole thing in itself. I'm actually writing a book about it. I'm not kidding. Anyway, so that, you can tell, made me not be the most mature person, and it was really hard for me to get to know myself to the point where I am now. For example, I'm almost 34 years old, but back then I was trying to figure out life. And when I met my ex-husband, we really fell in love. Like, we truly were in love. Like, it was one of those things that you feel the butterflies in the air and in your stomach, and you can see hearts floating around, and it was the whole thing. He was 24 back then. We fell really in love, and he then, after we had been dating for 1 year, he proposed to me, and we got married a year and a half afterwards. That was back in 2011. And you know, at first, I don't want to go into detail because this video would be 100 years old, but I would say that there were a lot of things that were not good, and especially from my end, excuse the French, I fucked it up real hard. And I'm currently still in the process of healing that part, because a lot of things that happened were basically my fault, and the guilt has been very consuming on my end. But it's been a while now, and that's pretty much healed, and I can look at it and talk about it now. That's why I'm making this video. But I think in all the years that we were married, there were a lot of good moments. I would say, though, they were the majority. But as I started to actually grow up and get to know myself, and my ex-husband would like kind of grow up a little, but not at the same rhythm that I was growing up and getting to know myself, and changing my spiritual beliefs, which then collapsed and crashed with his current beliefs, because when we met, when we met back then, we were both Christian, but then a few years afterwards I started to run into spirituality, and I started going through different things that he was not in favor of and he did not agree with. That started really separating us in a way, and this is a really painful thing to say, because he truly was my best friend, but it got to a point where I felt that I couldn't talk to him anymore, and I was kind of in denial about it. So in my case, I turned to alcohol and substance abuse to numb the pain from not feeling fulfilled from my relationship, and that was really bad and really sad, and you can imagine how much pain I had to endure. And I know for a fact that he also felt it, but he doesn't tend to be as sensitive as I am, so he would just like put up with it and ignore it and continue with his life. And the other thing was that he also came from a household where his parents had been together and have been together their whole life since they got married. They've had all kinds of issues, but they've never even once decided to split. So that's what he had in mind, that a marriage should be like. You know, you're not happy where you just put up with it and stay, because that's what you do, you stay. On the other hand, I come from parents who got divorced and remarried afterwards and now are separated, which is another story for another day, but it's a really different concept, because then you learn to see that if you're not happy about your relationship, then you end up leaving. You just you don't just stay there if you're not happy. You see what I mean? Now, I could say that our marriage was pretty normal. Like, we never disrespected each other. We never mistreated each other. Things were pretty normal. I would say actually that our relationship was pretty comfortable in a way. We didn't really have a breaking point where like in other cases when people get divorced is because something bad happened, or someone cheated, or someone disrespected the other person, or something happened. No, none of that. Like, our relationship was pretty comfortable. We did have like discussions, as any couple does, but we would just talk through them and that. But you know that there was this part of our relationship that we were not talking about, and it was getting worse and worse, the feeling of not being happy. And the reason why I decided to talk about this is because I know that a lot of people stay in relationships where they're not happy, because they feel that either they won't get anyone better, or they feel that, you know, what if I leave this person with who I'm not completely unhappy with, but then I end up completely alone. You can let that sink in for a minute. If that's you, and I don't know why I feel like I should say this, but if that's you, you need to listen to what your intuition is telling you to do. It is a pretty painful place, and I know for a fact from my experience it is a painful place. Back in 2018, when this happened for me, I broke down in tears for months. it did not only cause pain for me, but also for my parents and my whole family, because they loved him as their own son. It was pretty painful for the two of us. And fun fact is that we had like the most peaceful divorce ever. Like, we are still friendly to each other to this day. We don't talk very much anymore because out of respect for our respective relationships, but we are like in good terms. We're okay. We had a friendly divorce. We talked through it. We even talked to each other asking how we were doing. But it was very painful for the two of us and for both of our families, and no one could really understand what happened because they wanted to have a reason why things ended. Like, they were expecting that someone, probably me, had fucked up. That sounds so bad. But it just came to a point where I couldn't take being there anymore, being unhappy, and also keeping him there, being unhappy himself. So if you're in that same situation, follow your intuition. Get out of there. And I know it's more, like a million times more complicated than it sounds, but do it. After I divorced him and things settled a little bit, and a few months went by, and I decided that I wanted to start dating. A little bit later, I met my current partner, and some months later, after we had already moved together and everything, the opportunity arose of moving to Sweden. And now things are really going great for me, and they're taking off right now. And all of these wonderful things wouldn't have happened if I had just stayed there because I was comfortable there. But it might happen to you as well, that if you break up your current relationship where you're unhappy, you might end up alone for a while. But that's what, in your case, the universe would be trying for you to do, would be to be alone and learn to love yourself, and learn not to have fear of ending alone. Because you're not really alone, you're always protected and held. But this is my calling to you to do it if you're thinking about it. If your intuition has been screaming in your head to do it, this is your confirmation. Do it. You won't regret it. It will be painful, but once you're healed, you won't regret it at all. You'll be happier, I promise. So that's what I had for today. I hope you guys are doing okay. If you need to talk about this, you can always leave me a comment or talk to me through my Instagram. And we can always talk, and I can always let you know how it went for me. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're okay, and I hope you're safe, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.